All right, guys, welcome back to another episode of the Motorsport Republica podcast. We're in for a very special treat today. We have Australian Supersport Superbike champion, ex-MotoGP rider, Bryan Staring. Welcome, Bryan.
Thanks, boys. Thanks for the invitation. I'm really honoured to be on, and to chew the fat, I guess, about all things motorcycle racing with a couple of young guys that are having a good crack in the potty world, and also in the industry in general.
Yeah, absolutely. No, we appreciate you coming on, mate. It's massive for us, and again, it's just awesome. So thank you.
It is. We've already been gas bagging to each other or just at a cafe before, and it was just rolling from there. It was good stories and lots to talk about in the MotoGP world and motorcycling just in general, really.
Yeah, we should have hit record back then.
I know.
But, we'll have to see what we can reproduce here
now.
That's right.
Now the red light's flashing.
I'm sure we'll be fine. We'll definitely get it rolling, that's for sure.
Are you still keeping up to date with all the MotoGP international stuff?
Yeah, generally. I watch as much as I can of a lot of different sport, but the priority is always MotoGP and World Superbike. That's what always gets when there's every weekend there's so much to choose from. I'm also a pretty keen cyclist and in the cycling world, and I watch a lot of that, from the mountain biking to the road cycling. But always the priority is to watch the Grand Prix, and then to watch World Superbike, and then whatever else I can fit in. But typically that one weekend of racing drags out across the rest of the whole week nights to catch up. And then I guess to expand on that, the real truth is, far out, I fall asleep.
We've all been there, don't stress.
Every time. We actually got a new couch probably about 6 weeks ago. Far out. I really could have done that thing a few years ago. It is so good, and it's been so bad for seeing any race end.
Oh, that's so funny. It is true. We always talk about it though. In Australia, we kind of are lucky that it's on a Sunday night to watch the European rounds, because you don't have to blow your whole Sunday, go to birthday parties or something like that. You miss GP. Like, it's Sunday night, you kind of relax, you eat dinner, you watch it. Like, it's easy.
Definitely. Well, even what's better again is when you're on the Perth time zone.
Yeah,
because MotoGP starts at either 8 or 9 o'clock.
Oh, God, so much fun.
So really, honestly, I've got not too much excuse to be falling asleep. But the West Australian time zone is just the absolute perfect time zone to be watching motorsport.
Yeah.
I think Moto 3 normally starts around 5 or 6 o'clock. So,
the ultimate.
It is the ultimate.
That's perfect.
Best time zone in the world.
I'm moving to Perth.
Yeah, I know. And for the beaches.
Yes, definitely.
Oh, no, I love it. What's your thoughts on Grand Prix racing these days? Obviously, you've raced in it. How do you kind of see it now for the outsider? I guess, you've got that in-depth detail in it, but just as the outsider watching it now,
I think it's probably more enjoyable than ever to watch. The level of competition there is really astronomical, and I don't even think MotoGP, the corporation itself, could have imagined it would ever be so competitive. I guess, let's just say anecdotally, but if you look back through all the years, to have the riders qualify within the time gaps that they are now, and for Q2, the best lap time of Q2 to be so close to what Q1 is, the level is so incredibly high. I kind of feel like it doesn't always guarantee the best racing, but even I say that as a generalization across even with our ASBK racing, sometimes super tight qualifying means drawn out races, but anyway, MotoGP is such a great phenomenon at the moment, and it's so exciting to watch.
Yeah, massive, isn't it?
Yeah, it's great to see that field much closer now, and that gap closed, I guess, as well between the factory teams and the non-factory teams.
Honestly, I kind of feel like it's a bit of a joke now, this non-factory team thing.
Yeah.
I don't. Yeah, my opinion is that that it was always a bit of a joke that you know, a non-factory team gets to put their bike up there on the podium anyway. You know, it's such a privilege and an honor in any world championship series to actually earn your spot up there on the podium. I kind of always thought when Dorna, you know, allowed the non-factory first rider to be up there, it doesn't sit super well with me. But now we can see non-factory bikes. I mean, especially Ducatis, the older model bike that the commentators love to refer to as something that's unrideable almost. You know, we can see that bike win races. It's not week in, week out, but it happens.
Pretty close
enough, yeah.
And even expanding on that, Marco Bezzecchi, he's re-signed with he had the chance to really ride a factory bike, and he turned it down to be with his pal Valentino.
Yeah.
I still think that's crazy. Like, I'll be jumping on a factory bike, but it shows how good, you know, how far they've come and how harmonious that team is.
Yeah, exactly. It shows all those things, and I'm sure that they must have carved out a better deal for him. But you know, for a rider, especially a young rider that wants to win a world championship, to not choose, you know, on paper what's the best opportunity to win is an enormous decision to go against. Yeah. But I think that honestly, it brings back the point that there's not much difference.
That's a great point.
It is, yeah.
Do you think, though, someone like a Marco Bezzecchi in VR46 or Jorge Martin in Pramac can win the world title, or do you reckon it'll always still come down to like a factory Ducati or Repsol Honda? Obviously not anytime soon, but you know, a full factory team.
Yeah, I think that they could definitely win with the right rider.
Yeah.
Team bike combination. It doesn't have to be the official team to win. And as soon as the thing is that really all those teams are like development teams for riders until the official guys take them off their hands, whether they lure more money or just purely like what we spoke about a second ago, the opportunity of better equipment. So, you know, that's really now is a more chance we'll see it than ever because Ducati have so many damn bikes in the grid.
Yeah.
So all those bikes are competitive.
Yeah.
And definitely we could see one of those riders win. Do I actually think those specific riders that you mentioned can win? Probably not in the next couple of years.
Yeah.
Not unless they sort of continue to develop, I guess, really, just out of consistency from what I think of the results.
Yeah. We were talking about that with Jorge Martin, and obviously we're just armchair experts, but he seems like he's I take Marc Marquez out of it because I still think he's got the most talent on the grid personally, but he looks like he's just got so much pure speed but just can't get it together every weekend, where Pecco Bagnaia
has nailed it.
Just nailed it. And we've always been pretty harsh on Pecco, but now after Misano coming back after that monster crash, which I want to get your thoughts on, he just seems like he's riding like a world champion. And it seems like now the Italians are really getting behind him. Like, look at Misano, everyone chanting his name.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. I mean, incredible, isn't it?
Yeah.
Pecco is like, yeah, I feel like he's just 2% better than the rest of the guys at every single part of the sport. And then by lap 20, whatever, checkered flag time, it's made the difference again.
Yeah, that's a good point.
And certainly as far as, Jorge Martinez goes, like, did I say that right? Martin, sorry. He's just so much more raw.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And really, I mean, in getting away from the question, but like when the official Ducati team last year were looking at the rider to take Miller's spot, for me, there was absolutely no point in changing the rider for either of those two that they were looking at.
I think that's a great point.
Because Miller was at least only as consistent as what they both were. Either of them had, in my opinion, shown anything more than what Miller was definitely capable of, and they already knew, you know, he's sort of they knew him so well as a rider.
Yeah.
So like really, I was surprised by Ducati managed. I have no contact, communication, nothing.
Yeah.
This is honestly my just outside
Yeah.
perspective of it. But like I thought it was an unnecessary move that they made in filling that spot with another rider that's still raw.
Yeah, great point. And Jack was the ultimate wingman too when we look at it from that point of view. And I don't think Bastianini nor Martin, if given the seat, will be that rider because they'll want to be the number one as well. And I think Miller was happy to play that ultimate team role.
Couldn't agree more.
Yeah.
I mean, that's exactly the scenario. And really, I mean, the more they look at trying to put someone more and more competitive into that seat, the more likely they are to get Pecco off guard.
Correct.
Yep.
And I mean, I know it sounds probably like a contradiction because as a team owner, why would you not want the two absolute best riders in your team? But keeping the harmony across the whole team, I think is really probably more important than having the two best guys on paper because I mean, well, if you only have to look back to Rossi.
I was just
Lorenzo.
about to say, yeah.
And then there's a wall up between the pit boxes and certainly like, I mean, the way that especially Ducati now are so good at celebrating their victories. Yeah. Like I don't think any of us have seen that in Grand Prix racing before where there's like, it looks like an actual party in the pit box.
Yeah.
And that must be a pretty damn good environment to be in. So I think they're sort of playing with fire, trying to.
Yeah, it's a great point.
Trying to do the best pairing.
Yeah,
yeah, that's a really good point.
It is true, and like they are breeding so much talent, but there's going to be a point, And Jack was again the perfect wingman, but there's going to be a point where we're kind of waiting. We've spoken about this. It's to boil over where Martin's going to crash the party, or even like something like Bezzecchi and Bagnaia fight for the championship eventually. What's going to happen between VR46 riders? Like, their egos are going to come through eventually. They're not all going to be nice guys.
Well, the fallout's definitely coming.
Yeah.
And I think the world will watch on with huge interest when it does.
Oh yeah. Well,
it's inevitable.
Yeah.
It has to happen.
Yeah, and you can start to see it already, like post-race presses. And I love the fact that the MotoGP's sort of taking the leaf out of F1's book, where they're getting everyone together to sort of find those mixed reactions straight after the race. And you can already see when those two are in there together, they're already hanging shit and like, oh, hold on, where'd you finish again this week? So it's already starting like, they seem like slight little jabs, but sometimes you can tell, especially Pecco doesn't like it.
Yeah.
So like you said, it's only a matter of time till, I don't think it's going to be like a Biaggi and Rossi scene where someone's going to get a headbutt, but I mean, I wouldn't mind if it goes down that path. Like,
I'm with you.
100%. And I mean, the other thing is it's not just the victory that these guys are fighting for. It's a big payday.
Yeah, for sure.
There's a hell of a lot of money involved, depending on the position that they finish in. And like the fallout's coming.
Yeah. And I guess all it takes is, Bezzecchi or Bagnaia to take one of each other out in an important race, and Martin races through and takes over a championship lead, and that could be it.
Yeah. I mean, like I'm sure Valentino will be probably like the best at managing that situation whenever it arises, but it's definitely coming.
Oh.
And the thing is too, like we've seen it with the accident missing that main race, the point swing now with the sprint is just amazing. It's literally a weekend. If you double up on a weekend, your other opponent misses out through something else, like that really opens the door. Like you said, if they take each other out, cost each other a weekend, like that can just really throw a spanner in the works.
Yeah.
So
how good's MotoGP?
That's the best.
It's unreal.
What do you think of the sprint racing anyway?
I think that it's awesome.
Yep.
Yeah, I think that it's awesome. I understand that there's some pushback initially from some of the riders that have been doing it a long time, because I highly doubt they were worth more money this year and they got asked to do more work. But I don't know. The game everything just evolves, and every now and then it changes, and it changes like this. So, I mean, I feel like I don't read heaps of stuff from websites or MotoGP anymore. Really, I just watch it. But I mean, I think it's easy to see that the most outspoken rider was Espargaro, Aleix.
Yeah.
I get it, but I can understand his point, but like he needs to get over that point because really it's better for everyone, the racing that they're doing right now.
Yeah,
that's right.
The racing's so good, it's only bringing more attention to them, which is only going to make them more money in the end if that's what their actual goal is.
Yeah.
But yeah, look, on the other side of it, as well as a rider, there's more risk. There's way more risk. Every time they got to enter the first corner again as a group of riders, there's more risk every time. So the amount of times extra you do that every season, there's all that to be considered. And the workload as a rider over the weekend, I can definitely tell you that even without sprint races, by the time Saturday evening comes as a rider, your body is very sore.
It would be.
You're already very worn out from the weekends, just from the laps through practice and qualifying. So it would be interesting actually to know what their total lap tally is for the weekend now versus what it was pre-sprint races. But still, even if you do the same amount of laps, when you've got to do more of them in a row and you can't stop or come back into the pits or find an excuse to get a breather or whatever it is that every rider has to do from time to time to get through a session, it's harder. The longer you got to stay out there for, the harder it is and the more sore you are on Saturday night and certainly carrying all that fatigue into Sunday. I mean, I feel like we don't always see it on TV because whenever I take my helmet off, I feel like a mess, but I watch the guys on TV do it and they seem to be a hell of a lot fresher.
Yeah.
So I'm also not at their level, but I can tell you that they're fully feeling the fatigue of the event.
Yeah, wow. And I guess somewhere like, Sepang, Malaysia, where the humidity would just really get to you, like it must be tenfold again.
Yeah. I can't remember when it was, but it was a long time ago that Jeremy McWilliams told me once, he's like, Bryan, you wouldn't wish a Grand Prix race on your worst enemy. And until I experienced one, I couldn't really understand. I guess it must be, I haven't ridden the Suzuka 8 Hour, but the guys there's a constant joke about being asked to do a long run at a test for the Suzuka 8 Hour. And it's a bit of a long-standing joke of I think probably the hardest thing that you can do on a motorcycle. So it's bloody hard.
Yeah,
it would be.
And Suzuka just seems like such a physical track. It's just it almost doesn't let up. Like there's constantly, you must be fighting the bike.
Yeah, it's the heat as much as anything else.
Yeah.
I mean, even the Asian Superbike series races that I've done, like sometimes you're racing I've raced on a 68-degree track temperature, and
wow, that's enough.
And the sole of my boots, the glue was destroyed, and I lost the sole of my boots.
Yeah, wow. Shit.
It's those hot races that are 1,000 times worse, and Grand Prix race distance, like, is it? I can't think now. It's like 40 to 45 minutes.
Yeah.
But World Superbike race distance is more like 35 minutes, and I can tell you the longer that you're out there, it's like exponentially difficulty level increases, and like just the heat build up in your body. When the last lap comes, I feel like it's less common to see now, but the riders I was always racing against, immediately the suit gets zipped down.
Yeah.
Got to get air in, and like when you get back to the pits, there's been times when like desperate to get your helmet off. The helmet is burning your head.
That's nuts.
And like has to come off.
Yeah.
Anyway, I don't know how I got on that tangent, but there you go.
No, it's good to know. It's good. It's great to know. What do you think of like Bagnaia and a crash? Like, what was your first thoughts when you saw it, and how mentally strong do you have to be to then come back the next
and do what he did?
Yeah, the next rounds. Only a week later, get run over by Brad Binder and double podium in your home track. So there's extra pressure. They're wearing yellow, which
the extra
which
laps
looks amazing.
too, like we just touched on.
Yep.
Yeah. I guess first thing I thought when I saw the accident, like say immediately afterwards, honestly, just relief, because it's like the last thing that we want to witness on at any time, but on live TV is a rider being killed. And that's like absolutely what the risk is at the start of any motorcycle race. So that's the first thing. And then after, like he's alive. Wonder what his leg's like, because we all just saw his leg get run over.
Yeah.
And then like incredibly, he's like, I don't know about saying his leg's fine, but let's say, for the severity of the accident, his leg's fine.
Yeah.
So, but then also like there was the incident that was unrelated in the first corner as well. And it sort of just like added to the drama of the opening lap of that Grand Prix. And I can also say from left field, anytime where the circuit has a chicane as an opening corner, always the risk of a first turn pile-up 10 times more.
Yeah, okay, right. I've never really thought of that, to be honest.
No, neither have I.
I mean, I think I worked that one out for myself, but a long time ago. Yeah. If you look back at the history of like Monza World Superbike, fast front straight, hard on the brakes, and then into a very tight chicane, guaranteed pile up. Barcelona's a bit more open, but still, any time where there's a change of direction like that, here in Australia, there's like Winton, and often be the same when the riders are going to change direction rapidly, and they're also piled up. I mean, Misano wasn't so different. If you look at last weekend's racing, where you saw Pecco and who was the other rider at the opening? They did the replay on that 1,000 times at the end.
I know what you're talking about.
And the two Ducatis, like, they touched.
Yeah. Bez in the sprint.
Yes. Bez, yes.
It was.
That's just, I mean, okay, there's no first, you're not guaranteed a first turn pile up, but the chances of it happening with the chicane as an opening corner, way higher.
There you go.
There you go. Yeah, it's and I've never thought of that really, to be honest. With MotoGP, on our podcast, this is half our talking topics, but we always talk about aero. From what have you seen? Do you think it's added more to MotoGP, or has it taken away from racing? Because we're kind of noticing a little bit that front tire pressure is this massive thing, and you can only stay behind a rider for 5 laps
if you're lucky, depending on the track,
and then they got to stay back. And then normally, like you watch classic Valentino Rossi, Marc Marquez, all the superstars, they will tail a rider almost all race, and then either Rossi was really good at kind of psyching their front rider out in front of him, or push him wide, but they can't seem to do that now. Is that taking away from the sport, or is it just a different dynamic on how they should race?
Yeah. Good question about taking away from it. I guess what it's definitely highlighted is the teams that aren't as good with the aero are at an immediate deficit. So anyone that hasn't been able to find the right staff member, invest in the right person, or invest in that area of aero, I mean, I don't know why it seems like the Japanese teams are the ones that are struggling with the development in that space. That's detracted from the racing, because the Japanese teams, as we know them, they're nowhere near as competitive as they always have been.
Yep.
And I know that they're also, like the commentators say, Yamaha's looking for acceleration, and so on. But like, definitely, the Japanese are still looking for other areas as well in their whole package, but it seems like they're nowhere near as competitive in this aero game. So they've just been outgunned there and beaten to the mark. Does it take away from the actual racing outside of that point with some of the teams less competitive? I don't know that it takes away from it, but I'm interested to see where it goes 10 years from now, even 5 years from now, really, because if you look at V8 Supercar, if you look at Formula One, they're all trying to reduce this aero.
Yeah, exactly.
They're all trying to get away from it to make the racing more exciting.
Yep.
And definitely your point is really valid about front tire pressure, like, because now it's a huge talking point for the commentators. And like probably only 5 years ago, when the hell did we ever hear that before?
No,
Yeah,
that's right. It was never a thing.
Now, like, I question a lot of the races I've had where I'm like, geez, I struggled on the front, haven't struggled on the front all weekend. And then I got into that race and like I just had to get the bike to the finish.
Yeah.
Like I couldn't do any extra. And then at the end of that race, like we've never checked the front tire pressure. You know? Was that always a thing? Or is it just now that we're like, everyone is educated on it and we're looking into it deeper and now we know. But it's easy to understand that all that aero has put extra load on the front tire and that now the front tire pressure is critical and that they're really monitoring it. And like seems like the riders have been doing maybe managing it a bit better through the middle of this season, because it was only at the start of the year randomly riders crashing out of races all the time. Right. All the time.
Missing
all the
braking
time.
zones and stuff like that.
Yeah. So they're definitely evolving whether the riders are managing that better or whether the teams somehow are. But, you know, there's so many intelligent people involved in that circus that they start finding cures for issues very quickly, much quicker than, you know, we recognise as fans watching on TV.
Yeah,
Definitely.
For sure. It seems like it's something that riders – there's always been things that come up over time and riders can ride around it, but this just seems like one where they can't to a degree, you know?
Yeah. For me, the thing that I enjoy the most out of the Grand Prix racing is Simon Crafer.
Yeah.
He's a legend.
He's so good.
And like never would I watch a practice session of the Grand Prix. I mean, I almost have a rule against it because I've got to limit the TV time.
Yeah, fair.
But I would watch any session where he's in that commentary booth.
Yeah.
Because for me, it's I don't know. I mean, his knowledge base is fascinating, and the way that he can access the information from the teams is also fascinating. And what he brings to the table as far as information to give to the viewers, like whatever he's been paid, double it, triple it.
Yeah, definitely.
That guy is bringing everything to us from MotoGP.
Yeah.
Diagnosing it all.
Yeah, and first-hand experience. Like he was obviously a Grand Prix racer, raced those notorious 500s. Like so, he's got
he knows
big
what's
balls.
Up. Yeah, he definitely knows what's up.
Yeah, 100%. And I mean, anytime there's any accidents or anything now, I don't know if this is accurate or not, but I feel like the commentators are almost reserved to make a statement on what's just happened until they get the news from Simon.
Yeah, he's normally the one that they go to
true.
straight away. He's normally the one speaking up. But like you said, like definitely the man needs a raise because he's even doing stuff on Instagram, TikTok, like short clips of, you know, what's consistent of the forks on the bikes or their brakes or just so many things. I think he's even like running one of their like tech pages on Facebook. So it's absolutely bonkers what he's doing. Without him, that'd be screwed.
Yeah. I mean, I met him years and years and years ago, and I mean, he wouldn't know who I am, but yeah, geez, he's just got so much to offer, and like he created this thing that was Moto Voodoo, and anyone that's been following him for a long time or before he was brought in as commentator for MotoGP, he had this rider education class series tutorial, and it's called Moto Voodoo, and like the stuff he was doing on street bikes to the working at most track days and so on around Spain and around most of Europe, far out. The level of detail that he was offering as a rider coach, basically, like incredible, and just absolutely smoking the back wheel
Oh, for sure.
everywhere on these sports bikes. Yeah. And I can tell you that it's not that easy to do, to spin a bike up like that. It's not that easy, especially to control it the way that he's doing it. So, like, hands down, that guy is phenomenal.
Yeah, he's an animal. That's
for
cool.
sure.
If I was spinning up the back wheel, I'd be launching me very quickly back over.
Yeah, it'd be very much on accident if I did something like that, for sure.
No chance.
Yeah, I've learned the hard way a few times.
He did 8 laps around Phillip Island and he broke his bike. So
my bike blew up.
Yeah. Well,
happy about that.
No, yeah, that's not a very good entry into it.
No, definitely not. We won't name the brand. Keep that one under wraps.
That's funny.
But I mean, speaking about Phillip Island, what's one of your, I guess, favorite Aussie tracks and maybe some of your favorite tracks from around the world? Like,
Yeah, I guess Phillip Island has to be. I guess it is my favorite circuit here.
Yeah.
I kind of almost feel the reason I hesitate to say that is just like I have done more laps of Phillip Island circuit than I've had hot dinners.
yeah,
Yeah, that makes sense.
We've just been there so much. We
Yeah.
race there, at least 3 times a year, at least. And then we always test there at the start of every year and at the end of every year. It's where we are. And then, and across all the years, just like I've just done so many laps at Phillip Island. So I'm definitely not sick of it. I don't say it like I'm sick of it like that.
Yeah.
It's just that I've just done it so much. Is it still my favorite? I don't know. How many chicken parmas can you have before it's not going to be your favorite meal anymore, you know?
Ask Tommy, mate.
Yeah.
Quite a few.
I'll second that.
Anyway, look, I'm still going to roll with that. And then internationally, I really love the circuit in the Nürburgring
Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
in Germany. Yeah. That circuit was in the World Superbike Series when I was racing in Superstock through like early 2010s.
Yep.
And in all my life, the amount of races I've done, I could count on one hand the amount of pole positions I've ever had. So like very rare that I ever got one. But I did qualify on pole there, and I ended up crashing out of that going back 10 years for the World Superstock Championship.
Yep.
But the circuit there and the undulation that it's got, the layout, probably even some of the history of the old circuit that goes around the outside of that.
Nordschleife or whatever it is.
Yeah, that probably has some impact on just the ambience.
Yeah, it's historic, I guess. It's
so historic. There's the last time I was there, which was again a long time ago, but they're building a bloody roller coaster there. Like, there's
not going to see that at Phillip Island.
Yeah, they do have a go-kart track. I don't know. That's for me. That was really cool, and it's an adventure when you go to the Nürburgring because, you can take your crappy hire car out to that old circuit, and you pay €20, and then you're just free to go.
That's cool. Yeah,
free to go. I mean, I feel like there's so much legislation to get through in Australia to do anything like that, and they just let you loose in a crappy little 3-cylinder hire car, and there's GT touring race cars that are out there on the course with you, and far out they come up in your mirror fast. But nonetheless, like, I don't care how shit your car is, you get any car out there on that old circuit, and you have no idea what's around the next corner because the circuit's so long, and you're just doing one lap. It like is a massive thrill. It is a massive thrill to thrash anything around there. And then even adding to the spectacle on that is like you come across this flatbed truck that's going around and collecting all the motorcycles that are just against the barriers, like literally against the barriers. And I don't think I saw an ambulance, but
That's good.
I mean, there must have been 6 bikes on the back of this thing, the lap that I just happened to be out there. I guess that's World Superbike weekend. So there's more riders there. But €20, go for your life.
That's cool.
Yeah, that's mad.
We're going to make the trip over there then.
I think the cleanup fee is a bit expensive, but for that flatbed to come out, I think they charge you a few €1,000 if you've been it.
Yeah, okay. Yeah,
and I feel sorry for the high car companies all just getting thrashed around the ring. Seriously. What was it like, racing around Mugello through Valentino's era? Do you take, and not just specifically Mugello, but when you're racing, do you take in the spectacle of the fans? Do you hear them? Or you're just so in the zone, it's not a thing? Yeah,
I guess, I just did that once. I just had 1 year in the Grand Prix. It's incredible to be anywhere where Valentino was even close to. Was just like, I don't know how to describe it, but just an influx of people. If you happen to be near where he was in the paddock, like, shit, someone would rip the hat off your head on your scooter. I mean, not that was super common, but like I tell that story because it happened.
Yeah.
Or like if your camper happened to be parked near his camper, disaster.
Yeah, wow.
Like,
I've just been on for young and old.
yeah. And don't worry, not that I was ever in a motorhome like his, but we're in the same paddock. That was all. So yeah, like, can you? Yeah, you can hear the fans. You can hear the fans on the motorbike. Like, you know, I was definitely not close enough to the action on the racetrack to be where the crowd were cheering because we were a long way apart.
Yeah.
But to add to the spectacle of being a rider, and I think you know, it's not often you get to tell a story about different little stuff like that that you got to maybe enjoy in your time racing, but certainly pretty special to be in the paddock with such legends that just to be a rider on the grid, you're given a lot of respect.
Yeah, for sure.
From all the fans really, but in some countries more than others. But yeah, there's probably not too many things that I really like, in not going too deep into it, that I really appreciate or respect out of my experience in that paddock. But certainly, like, in saying those experiences and reflecting on it now, definitely a big highlight.
Yeah,
sure.
And really not often that someone asks you a question like that, you get to tell a story. So
it's
there you
cool.
go.
Like, we are, as you can already tell, massive nuffies. So like, it's so interesting to hear it from, you know, firsthand, and especially being in Australia, we're so far away from it. So we were just talking about this before. Like, we only see one MotoGP race a year. You know, if you live in Spain, you can shoot off to 5 or 6, how many you want. So when they come to it, or you speak to someone, you know, we take it in so much more.
Yeah, we appreciate it a lot more.
That's right. We appreciate it so much. So it's just interesting to hear. But going from obviously Europe, what do you think of Australian motorcycle racing now? Obviously in ASBK, doing your thing there, but just as a whole, you know, how do you see that, even with the fan bases, the racing now? Is it dived? Is it on its way up?
That's just like such an open question to answer, and like, where do I want to start with it? ASBK is on the up.
Yep.
ASBK is definitely on the up. Say for like, I'm going to say for what I think of spectator interest, spectator attendance, like reach from a rider's point of view, I think that it's on the up and we're getting more interest. Also, I think the TV coverage is fantastic. But then on the other side of that, like the series management, there's a lot of pretty unhappy riders, teams, people, with the way that it's been sort of conducted at the moment. So there's definite room for improvement there. And I'm always going to say, like, so much so that within a few years, if there's not some change, there is definitely room for a breakaway series.
Yeah, wow.
Okay.
I feel like that's just probably just I throw that out there just maybe to highlight, I'm going to say, the level of the unhappiness from the teams. So then now that I've been around long enough, like that happened 10 years ago.
Yep.
Well, maybe it was not 10 years ago now. It was probably more like 14 years ago. But it could happen again. So, there's like heaps of little things that need to be improved about the series. But not everything's bad. Yeah. And there's a hell of a lot of positives. I think the racing's still really good. And the racing's definitely a high level. Like, for me personally this year, like, I haven't been at the front of the races or racing towards the pony end, but like, geez, from what the riders that are there at the front, like, geez, they're putting some incredible, they're at an incredible level. The lap times they're producing, what they're able to do in racing, I'm only envious because my performance isn't quite there, but they're setting a bloody high standard. Yeah, at the front, and I think that's recognised certainly by the teams, by the spectators. Don't know, can't say, but like, say the lap times that we saw from the guys at the front at Morgan Park, which was a long time ago now, about 3 months, ASBK management, since the last race, if you're listening.
It's a long time.
About 3 months.
Way too long.
Anyone that can remember that race, that was the last one we had 3 months ago.
That's all right,
There's heaps of good stuff happening in ASBK.
Yeah.
So I think it's still exciting.
Yeah.
It definitely is. Like, I can vouch for it. Obviously, I watched you guys at the start of the year at the Superbike round.
Yeah.
And I was there for all the racing. I thought it was absolutely unbelievable. Like you said, it's just amazing to see so many homegrown talents doing what they do and performing at such a high level. Like, you just freak out and go, geez, these guys aren't far off, or like, you know, it's a shame that they're not there, or we're only there for so long. So it's really, really good to see. And I watched you guys up in Darwin as well over the TV. So it's been great to watch. Even through the lower classes, the super sport classes, and even the 300 classes, seems like there's a great pathway now for the juniors coming up to make that next step.
Yeah, definitely there is. And like, yeah, I think it's the ASBK management that need a pat on the back for that.
Yeah.
The Oceania Junior Cup.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's brilliant, that.
Is fantastic series. It's really good. I don't know all the details, but I can't remember the numbers, but I think it's very affordable racing.
Yeah.
It's very affordable racing for a sport that's, you know, going to the other extremes as far as for affordability goes. So, you know, I think that those junior parents are pretty good at making it, being able to spend a lot out of it.
Yeah.
Even though they got given an opportunity to not spend too much money, I think they all go back home and spend way more. But I can't chip them for that, really. I only want the best for their kids.
Yeah.
But yeah, the series is great. Like, the fact that they've got Gary McCoy there.
Oh, that's brilliant, isn't it? Like,
That's really cool.
I actually, I'd be interested to find out from the parents how much they really appreciate having Gary McCoy there.
Yeah.
But like, certainly we can't expect the kids to know Gary's past, but like the parents should, and so should all the other people involved with that, making sure that he's listened to, and that really, I don't know, I'm going to say, like, he shouldn't be questioned. If he says it's green, it's green.
Yeah.
Like,
listen to the man when he speaks.
Yes, this man deserves a lot of respect.
Oh, yeah.
You know, he's one of very few people that ever worked out how to beat Valentino. Not that he could do it consistently, but he did it.
He did it.
Mate, just winning a Grand Prix, just being on the Grand Prix paddock, let alone winning a Grand Prix, that's pretty bloody impressive.
Yeah.
Stuff of dreams.
Yeah, and he rode in a style like that was fucking sick to watch. Like, he was sliding that thing everywhere.
Way ahead of his time.
Way ahead, yeah.
Way ahead of his time.
Yeah. On a two-stroke.
I was going to say, especially on the bikes that he was on.
Spit you over.
Man.
Yeah.
To have that control.
Yeah.
100%. So really now, I think as a path for what I see from the young kids that come, like OJC, fantastic opportunity. And then this Asia Talent Cup, seeing a lot of riders go through to that. And then also to Red Bull Rookies. So it seems like there's a pathway there for riders to go very young. If they choose to, if they've got the finance behind them to do that. Obviously, like, I don't think that Asia Junior Cup, the Talent Cup, or Red Bull Rookies, like, I don't think that's necessarily an affordable pathway, unlike OJC. But if you can give your child that opportunity, then it's definitely a fantastic career path. But like, also now, if your child stayed and he's 17 years old and racing in Australian Supersport, finally Australian Supersport is back on the up.
Yeah.
The racing at the front of that field is fierce and competitive. And for a long time, I'm going to say for like basic, I've been in and out of the country a bit, but like for the last 15 years, Supersport's been pretty dead in Australia.
Yeah.
It lost all the support from the manufacturers when 600s have become less important for the manufacturers to sell.
Yeah, that's a good point.
And I mean, we saw the same happen in World Supersport, but they've just done a better job of propping it up.
Yeah.
Anyway, Australian Supersport now is really good again. So like, we're definitely going to see riders start to come through from that into Australian Superbike. I mean, I might have some more competition for my spot on the grid. But
at least it's healthy.
Yeah, that's right. It's healthy. Yeah, and that's what we want to see, you know. And it brings everyone so much pride and joy to see Australian riders achieving big things on the World Championship stage. You know, everyone loves seeing the kid that they've seen at the go-kart track that they 2 years later they can watch that kid on a Sunday night in Moto3 or, you know, whichever category it happens to be in. So, you know, I really encourage the rest of the fans to really get behind those riders that are doing that and having a crack, because it takes so much commitment to be there from all the family. You know, there's like not that many families that happen to be luckily so fortunate and well off that it's an affordable thing to do, you know, or even if it is affordable, it's still a huge commitment because maybe their super successful business requires them to be away from it. Yeah. So
you're putting a lot on the line.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. No matter which angle you want to look at it, it's enormous to have a young child in Europe.
Yeah. That's massive. And it's great seeing someone like Joel Kelso, and we hope, you know, we're massive fans of his on the pod, and we just hope that he can secure a ride for next year as well. But it's great. Like, he's qualifying well. Yep. You know, he's thrown in some great races, some great results. So, like you said, just brilliant seeing someone like that, you know, doing what he does.
Kelso's incredible. Like, his pathway, I'm not going to claim that I know it off the back of my hand, but he worked his way through a lot of crap championships, and he has been super persistent. Really, probably more persistent than really any other young Australian rider. And he's from Darwin.
Yeah. Not much out there.
Tough going.
Yeah. Like, yeah, I'm from Perth. There's just one race. Well, okay, technically there's two, but I'm going to say there's just one racetrack there. Yep. Same in Darwin. It's, and not that my career compares to his, but it's huge for him to be just at where he is now on a World Championship grid, you know, top team, and okay, he's probably not super proud of his racing right now, but he's qualifying on the front row of Grand Prix.
Yeah.
The world knows who Joel Kelso is, and it's only a matter of time until they work the rest of it out.
Yeah.
Anyway, I hope he keeps his persistence and finds his little spot there, because he's doing incredibly well.
Yeah, it is. And it just speaks volumes, obviously, of where he's come from to be where he is now, of his character and his, you know, determination to just stay at that level and be there and rub shoulders with everyone else.
Yeah,
like,
100%.
You know, we love that. Like, you know, fucking tough it out and get there and get the job done. So fingers crossed we can see more of it.
And that's the beauty, I think, as fans, especially with Aussies, but with everyone, that's the beauty of Moto3, Moto2, MotoGP, and even from World Supersport, from Aussie Superbikes to World Supersport to World Superbikes, you can watch them progress through their career. Like, you know, how many careers have we all watched progress through Moto3, like Jack Miller, you know, and then, you know, he's now, I wouldn't say on the tail end of it, but he's now one of the elder statesmen, I guess, on the grid. You know, I remember watching him when I was in high school, like ages ago, and it's just incredible to see the rise of people. But as you said, it's such a hard slog, and we don't see that obviously. But you know, it's pretty cool.
Yeah, it is. There's so much more to it at the end of the, like, every year as the rider, and you don't know what your contract, or you're out of contract, you don't know where it's coming from or what it's going to be, and you're like desperate to be there again, desperate to be there, and would do anything. And navigating those paths, like, and every year it comes time again, and you're like back in that same position. You need to be thinking about your next move and like who you need to be talking to, and like there's just so much more to being consistently in Europe in a Grand Prix team than riding the motorbike. There's just so much more to it than that, and having your wits about you, and doing all the things off the racetrack that you need to do to continue to establish yourself. Because the reality is, like, okay, if you win everything and you're a childhood superstar and dream, all those things aren't as difficult. But not everyone gets to be that.
Not everyone's that.
Not many of them.
and making sure you've got your spot again each year, like it's just so much more difficult than probably what like the world can really appreciate. So, so definitely that's even more of a reason why, like, you know, the Australian motorcycle community need to completely get behind these young kids that are just pouring everything into it.
Yeah.
And they know it's their only opportunity. They know it's their, like, if you can't have a year off when you're 17.
No, you got to go.
Yeah.
Every year you have to make it happen.
Yeah.
You have to make it happen every year.
It's a great point you make. And I think we always harp on about it. And for us, we always try and follow all the young guys coming through. But I think the Australian media does really lack on awareness.
Oh, definitely.
We look at the Lawrence brothers in motocross. Jet went undefeated, 22-0 in AMA motocross, like in his rookie year. That is so outlandishly crazy to do that and deserves so much respect. And, you know, he got
30 seconds.
30 seconds on Channel 9.
He went in Townsville or whatever it was.
Like Sunshine Coast Channel 9. Like, I think he ended up finally getting a clip on something on Sunrise or something like that. But it takes that type of effort for an Aussie to even get recognised. So I just feel like we get such a hard slog from the media because it should be easier for these guys coming through because it's so much easier to get backing, you know, if you've got eyes on you. But you could be Jet Lawrence and still no one from Australia knows who you are.
Yeah, I think unfortunately it doesn't matter how incredible your performance is unless the sport that you're in is you know, perceived as popular, then or popular in general, then you've just got to fight for that media attention. And like, you know, I don't know Jet Lawrence, but I don't think he cares about how much media attention he probably gets here.
Yeah.
But we know that he deserves more.
Yeah.
And you know, probably no one will take or pay any attention until they see him on Forbes top 10 earners.
That's right.
The rich list for
this
Australia.
Yeah,
who is
point.
this? What is he? 20?
Yeah.
Yeah. How is this 20-year-old kid earning so much money?
Had enough. Learn his name quick smart.
Yeah, that's right.
So I got to ask, I'm a massive Superbike fan and the boys give me shit about it, right? I want to get your thoughts on the gap between Supers and MotoGP in terms of its fan base, in terms of the quality of riders, in terms of the quality of racing. I just want to pick your brain a bit and see what your thoughts are. Because like I said, I personally think because there's no or minimal aero there, it's much better. We always see more, you know, battles where there's 2, 3, maybe even 4 guys that are staying behind each other all race and, you know, with a bigger finish.
Yeah. First off, I'm only offended by whoever would be giving you shit about being a Superbike fan.
Thank you very much. I really appreciate that.
That's the fella in Bali, right?
Yeah, that's right. Oh, come on, you guys team up on me. Don't backtrack now, mate.
I can't help it sometimes.
Yeah, look, like World Superbike really is was always my destination, is where I sort of wanted to race, and because we grew up racing production bikes here, and majority of the riders from Australia have had the most success. I'm going to say that before I know the stats on that, but I think it's with World Superbike. Yeah. Whilst we've obviously had very successful riders at Grand Prix level, but World Superbike, it's such a painful one at the moment because you know, I love it and it's probably just not quite producing the entertainment that we want from it.
Yeah.
I feel like it started producing it, say like 12 to 18 months ago, and then shortly after, one rider became so incredibly dominant that it really has taken away from its entertainment value. But like, if the question is why, like, what do I think about that, the gap to the Grand Prix and why? I think the gap is so big between the riders in that paddock because the level of the teams is so incredibly different.
Yeah, okay.
There's definitely a difference in the ability of the riders from those first 3 guys.
Which is clear as day.
Yeah, Toprak, Bautista, and Johnny. There's definitely that level of rider skill set is different from the rest of the riders there. But like after that, personally, I think there's more of a difference in the level of the teams than there actually is in the level of difference between all the rest of those riders. I think that those first 3 teams, just like the first 3 riders, if you put them on a Grand Prix stage, they'd be incredibly competitive. And the other teams,
not so much.
I don't think so. I don't think they would be. So like I think that's why there's more of a gap in the field. It's also about the components and the bikes and the support that they can get for them as well. So like it's incredible really that we're talking earlier about how fiercely competitive Grand Prix racing is at the moment, and like World Superbike haven't been able to produce that with just with production-based bikes.
Yeah.
It hasn't.
Good point.
Probably haven't seen it since Redding, Top Rack and Johnny Ray really a few years ago.
Yeah. Yep. Yeah, that's when it was getting back to being its most interesting.
Yeah.
And then, on a personal level, my frustrations with it is like, Johnny wins for so long on the Kawasaki and, I raced green bikes for a long time and I'm a bit of a soft spot. But he always got penalised for winning by so much. They're constantly taking away RPM. They're constantly putting weight on the bike.
They screwed him over.
Yeah, and making it harder and harder and harder for him. And, whilst I think they've imposed some limitations to the Ducati at the moment, like it's not having the same effect.
No, it's not costing them as much as what it is Kawasaki.
Yeah, and, in World Superbike, Ducati have always got away with murder.
Yeah, of course.
And now it's not Italian management of the series. Now with Dorna there, it's Spanish management.
Spanish Mafia, we call it.
Yep.
Spanish Mafia. But I'm going to say that hasn't changed. Ducati is still getting away with murder. I know it's up for debate when he's the only rider on a Ducati that's able to do that. But Johnny was the only rider on the Kawasaki that was destroying everyone else. And he kept getting penalised.
That's a great point. Well, prime example on the weekend, I'm not sure if you've seen when he ran up the back, Bautista ran up the back of Rinaldi.
Yep.
Should have got a long lap, at least. No, free to race.
Yeah.
Finished second. You're 100% right. They're a little bit more lenient.
Yeah.
They do, like we say, they definitely look after their own, that's for sure.
Oh, I mean, the most obvious one for me weeks ago was Silverstone Grand Prix, I think. No, it was Assen. It was Assen.
Quartararo?
And the when I'm on the spot for names, they never come to my head. The British rider won in Moto 2.
Jake
Dixon.
That's right. Don't worry about his name. That's fine. Yep.
Jake Dixon. But how disrespectful that
Acosta,
Spanish.
wasn't it?
So Spanish. Well, you know what? If you're looking back at it now, you'd be right in thinking, oh yeah, was it Acosta that won? Because they showed Acosta going across the finish line in third place, and they didn't even show Jake Dixon, who won the race. He won the race and didn't get the media attention from it.
That's true.
And I know I know when the best battle of the race is on TV and they're racing for third or fifth or seventh place, whatever it is, doesn't matter. The rider that's about to win that race deserves the respect of crossing the finish line and getting the worldwide TV media coverage of that. And Spanish TV that we all see that viewing, they decide who's going to be on TV at which time. They film their own super child crossing the line in third place.
That's a great point. Was that the same round he touched the long lap?
Yeah, that's what I was talking about.
That was another point. Thank you. Yeah.
I think he was on there. I'm pretty sure he was on.
Mate, I'm telling you, there was green paint on his tyre in Park Ferme. That's all I'm saying.
Yeah, 100%. Guilty? Nah.
No, not at all.
Nah.
No, but we've seen it happen. I think Martin had happened to in Assen as well. Touched the green. Admittedly, there was no one around him.
Yeah. But then
Pecco touched the green. They didn't touch him. But
Binder touched the green and then
every time
he's penalised.
Every time done.
Seems to be the nicest guy in the grid as well. And
Yeah. So look, I don't know that. I don't know how that relates back to the World Superbike question. We
do it all the time.
But yeah, the gap from World Superbike to MotoGP, I think that gap's always been there, really.
Definitely.
And it takes. I think that it takes the world's most talented rider to come out of that paddock, go into MotoGP paddock and have any success.
Yeah.
Because very few riders have done had the ultimate success there. Like there's a lot of riders that came from that paddock and kissed podiums, won some races.
Yeah.
There's a hell of a lot that you could mention that came from that series. but like the gap will always exist there. And yeah, I think the other thing that like definitely, I mean, I was a rider of the World Superstock Championship. That was my development path into where I was trying to get to World Superbike. And Dorna have done away with that series. So bringing riders through into World Superbike right now, they've lost two categories. One was World Superstock 600, Superstock 600 and Superstock 1000. And like they were the best categories. They definitely channeled riders directly into World Superbike or World Supersport.
Yep.
And sometimes the riders were really good enough, went straight into the top teams there and had immediate success. And I cannot believe Dorna got rid of those categories.
It's mind-boggling.
And I definitely think that is 100% one of the reasons why there's a bit of a hole in World Superbike right now. World Supersport's kind of taken up the slack in that there's so many damn riders on the grid. But again, it's almost like there's not enough teams to support it there. And then because the teams aren't well off enough, because the teams have to struggle so much, they're asking so much money of the riders to be there, even at a World Supersport level. And like, I honestly think a lot of that's related back to the fact that Superstock is missing. And it was this, as far as World Championship Motorsport goes, an incredibly cheap platform to put young riders on showcase and see which egg didn't break, you know? Then take that one, take that egg.
Yeah, that's it.
Give that egg a crack. Then really, I guess to add one little extra thing is like Petrucci is the best example of a rider that came from World Superstock, then went straight into MotoGP, had enough success in MotoGP to stay there for like 10 years.
Yeah.
And now he's only finally just made his way back to World Superbike.
Yeah.
I think I got plucked out of that series. Was it the year after Petrucci or a couple of years after Petrucci into the Grand Prix? But obviously the outcome of my Grand Prix career was highly different to his. But anyway, that's what World Superstock could have done.
Yeah, that's a great point though. That's a great point.
I was going to say, so being a massive Kawasaki fan, a bit of a soft spot for him, what's your thoughts on Ray's move to Yamaha? Because honestly, I was shocked.
Yeah.
I couldn't see him leaving.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a great point.
I mean, I think he had no option.
Yeah, okay.
I think as a rider, no matter how much, I mean, again, without going into details about my own thing, I say like when you're in a great relationship with a team, always say, oh yeah, Brian, we're family. Oh, we're family. And then the next minute they're trying to sue you.
Yeah.
But, you know, I think really like seems like Johnny's and that Johnny's team and Kawasaki and management and everything there does seem like that was family. But the rider has to do what's best for him. And why should he keep having to ride that bike the way he's riding it right now just to finish on the podium? He doesn't have a choice.
He's got to go.
He had to go. Yeah. He's got to go.
Yeah. I mean, I watched him on the weekend. I thought, shit, man, like he's still got it.
Oh,
like,
yeah.
You know, easy. Probably still the most talented guy on that grid, you know? And I was like, yeah, that's a fair crack. As shocked as I was like, yeah, it's a good point. The Yamaha's a much better bike.
Yeah, it is. It's probably still, it's definitely not as good as a Ducati, but it's certainly a step closer. And like, yeah, I don't know. We'll see how it plays out with Yamaha, but I bet by the time Johnny's finished up racing, he'll be a long-term Kawasaki ambassador the rest of his life.
Yeah, 100%.
But right now, this is what he's got to do.
That's it. You got to do what's best for yourself. It's going to be interesting next year. I'm actually really looking forward to it with some of the additions, especially like Iannone getting across to the paddock. I think that'll be a bit of a draw card. Hopefully draw some fans back in.
Yeah, you know? Definitely. Yeah. I mean, fans is another point. Like just watching Magny-Cours on the weekend, far out. It was either like incredibly hot there or, geez, there was no one in those damn grandstands.
I know.
It was actually crap to see.
It was so crap to see.
But I feel like that's steadily been increasing. Like every year I feel like there's less and less people, and we've talked about it a little bit, you know, and Superbikes has gone through its heyday as well. They were so popular at one stage. But we're trying to always kind of figure it out because, sometimes the racing can be good, but maybe, as you said, there's only 3 people that can win it, where MotoGP, throw a blanket over the field and that's who can win, And
the people go to the racetrack to see the superstars.
Yeah.
Real racing enthusiasts go to watch their local club racing, but not that you have to do that as a real racing enthusiast, but I think you get the point. But when there's not superstars, mega stars that you go in there to see, and it's only probably Dorna's fault that Johnny Ray isn't as much of a superstar as what Troy Bayliss was.
Yep.
Yeah.
That's just it. That's what creates all the hype and all the rest. That the racing has to be good to create the awareness and get the following, but it's the personalities that the people really get connection with.
That's a great point.
Yeah.
I.e. Valentino Rossi, everyone, it's the personality.
That's it. And I think it's just something that we're sort of missing in MotoGP as well now. Trying to find that. We're never going to get it, obviously, that next Rossi, but just trying to chase that next person who's just going to put themselves out there that little bit more.
It's probably getting harder and harder as well because everything's tightening up so much. It's probably harder to do what you want. Valentino Rossi rode in the 250s and had a sex doll pretending to be Naomi Campbell bagging out Max Biaggi. You can't do that anymore. As much as I would love to see it, it's not going to happen.
It's definitely not kosher.
It'll definitely happen one day. There's one rider that's just different that comes through that gets attention that's special, and it'll definitely happen.
Yeah, I hope so.
I mean, there's too much pressure on riders to be conducting themselves a certain way to keep sponsorship things happy, or you get I'm guilty of it myself. You get drilled in young being told this is what you've got to do and say and act, and otherwise it's a bad look, or this outcome won't be what you want, or whatever, and it certainly is a massive deterrent for a young kid to be able to show their personality. So until there's a kid that comes through that doesn't care, then and has a super talent, that's when you really get excitement again.
Yeah, that will be the star. And I guess this leads us on to, we always talk about, and we touched on it before, Formula One Drive to Survive. It's boomed that sport massively. And you do see more of their personalities behind, the garage, I guess you could say. Is that something where you think that should be implemented into MotoGP or even Superbikes? How do you kind of have a take on that?
I think it can only have a positive outcome, really. But I think that every single sport on this planet will now have that goal or that set a precedent. It's obvious what that TV show's done for Formula One, and so that'll become the new pinnacle of what to strive towards. But honestly, I think that, my opinion, the limit will be how much time the fans, us, have to view everything.
Yeah, that's all right.
True, with everything going on a race weekend.
Soon you'll have your mountain bike hero, your cycling hero. Now they've already got a Tour de France one.
Yeah, which is amazing.
Yeah. And there'll be this competition for all these different sports. Tennis, you're going to be up against so much more competition to get these to fight for your attention to watch a series, and then the actual racing starts, and already I definitely can't keep up with all the motorsport and sports on a weekend that I want to watch. It's not possible. And we've got access to all of it at our fingertips.
That's right. That's very true. There's even a golf one now as well. It does the same thing. And everyone's just fighting and you're kind of fighting to outdo each other as well. So, maybe some of it could be a front.
Yeah.
In certain aspects,
Yeah. Really, what the sport should be do is trying to come up with something else original.
Yeah. Yeah, it's a good point. And look, I'm only 28 years old, but I still see myself as a racing purist nuffy. And I don't know if I would want MotoGP to blow up like F1, because I don't want to go, we go to Albert Park and it's great. So the spectacle is amazing, but there's obviously a lot of fake Instagram people there. And I do not want to see that Phillip Island. I like seeing, I do like seeing the Bogans just sitting there all weekend, just drinking JD. And Superbikes is next level again. They're real fans.
Yeah, that's real for them.
They're different again. I love that. It would be, I think we do still, and you touched on it as well, need to see younger fans come into the sport. Because you look at MotoGP Phillip Island sometimes, and it's older guys, and it's be interesting to see how that evolves in 20 years' time, and how motorcycling looks then, and the racing side of it.
Yeah, I mean, definitely. Like as for ASBK racing, the demographic of fans is older. Yeah, too old. We're racing these sick, super fast, high, technically advanced bikes. And it should appeal to younger people, but that's the promoter's job to make the riders big enough names, to lure in more crowd, and it's at their interest mostly. Of course, it's in everyone's interest for the sport to generate more attention, but it's up to them to work out why it's not. And why younger people are or aren't interested in the motorbike racing. And I don't know if it's cop out to say or not, but it's their job to fix.
It's a good point.
The riders are doing everything they can. Personally, like I'm definitely not very big on social media. I have a very small presence and choose to share very little. But I post whatever I want to post about the racing and so on. But so many of the riders are already doing everything. They're doing 10/10ths with it, paying someone to go down and record them bloody on a weekend's practice day so they can put a clip together on their socials. It's just...
try to get a bit of reach.
Cost them a fortune to get out. They're not going to get anything, not in the immediate future. They get nothing back from the photographer they just paid to put that together for.
Yeah.
They can show it to their sponsors as in hope of getting some... either showing some exposure or trying to create attention to get someone new on board. But the riders are already doing their thing. So, it's up to the series promoters to take something else and run with it and come up with some other, original idea on how to get exposure.
Yeah.
But hey, look, I don't know, podcasts like this help.
That's what we're trying to do.
Yeah.
Just get the name out for everyone. Try to be proactive rather than reactive as well. And I guess, like you said, the promoters, it's something maybe they've got to look at. Try to get ahead of the game. Try to look at that next thing that's going to help promote, obviously, every rider individually, but the sport as a whole.
Yeah.
No matter what it is.
Yeah. And, in the end of the day, budgets rule everything.
Of course.
So, ASBK management doesn't have... they're obviously not going to produce a Netflix documentary.
No, of course not.
So everyone's got their little means to get by with and work with what they got. But I don't know what else I can really touch on with that. But
that's fair.
Yeah.
So Vic Road Racing champs this weekend. Speaking about some local sport and promoting it, it's going to be a pretty big event. I've heard that there's some massive numbers across a few of the classes. You're going to be down there with your MotoGo Yamaha team. So what's the weekend going to entail for you? What are you looking to get out of it? How's it going to shape up?
Yeah. Good. Really happy to be here for Victorian Road Racing Championships, Vic Titles. Whoever would have thought that Vic Titles would basically be an Australian Superbike grid. Whilst I couldn't be happier to be attending a small event, it is a bit rich that some poor guy that just wants to try and win a Victorian local state championship and he's got to race Troy Herfoss and Mike Jones.
That's rough.
Yeah, it's pretty rough.
That is
pretty rough. Look, the Preston Motorcycle Club put together a series now that's good enough that it's obviously created the attention from the teams, ASBK teams and riders, and we are all desperate to ride our motorbikes. Ultimately, that's why we're there. We're there because we need some practice ahead of the upcoming ASBK race, which is like 29th of October.
Yep.
Weekend after GP, I believe.
Weekend after the GP. Okay, yeah, I didn't. Yeah, of course it would be around that time. So yeah, which I think Australian Superbikes no support race at MotoGP this year.
Yeah, I was going to say that's
surprising.
Yeah, first time in a while.
First time that I think I've been racing ever where Australian Superbike hasn't been part of that.
Yeah.
Anyway, I get it. The last however many years, 5-6 years, say, there's only been like 8 or 10 riders on the grid at that event.
Yeah.
And then, look forward to or move across to this championship this weekend, Victorian Road Racing Championship. Is there 46 or 48 riders entered? We're going to have to qualify down to get onto the grid for the Vic titles this weekend. So yeah, that's like, I guess any series that's strong enough that can get enough rider demand that it brings entry fees and circuit hire down enough to make it affordable to get out there and get decent track time, you're going to see good attendance, or it just keeps building on its own momentum. So I think probably Preston Motorcycle Club have done a great job over the last few years in like building this event year on year, and then now look what it is. Fantastic, you know. So we've seen basically similar thing happen with the Sydney Summer Series, where just huge attendance from riders, from club riders to ASBK riders, and it's awesome. Yeah. As far as what we want to get out of it this weekend, I mean, first time I went on the bike for a few months, as I mentioned earlier, since the last time at ASBK. Really, it's just a shakedown. It's the only, for me personally, it's the only opportunity for me to have a ride. We've got a child, first baby due.
Congratulations.
Thank you. Yeah. So that's like early mid-October is the scheduled date. And there's some more riding that's going to be back on at Phillip Island around then, but like I can't commit to it.
Yeah.
So for me, this is the only opportunity to get a ride in on my superbike. This will just be one weekend on the bike over what will end up being about 5-month period.
Far out, man. That's nuts.
Bravo, ASBK. Thanks for that.
Mate, they got to sort that out. Like, you know, even because that also falls within MotoGP summer break. So for us, it gives us something to watch.
Yeah.
So it's definitely something they got to sort out for. And prime example, that'll get the Australian spectators. That'll draw more people in. To fill that gap.
Yeah. Yeah, definitely.
That's a great point.
Yeah. And, you know, now we finish the series in December, which is like, it's a pain in the ass.
At the Bend?
Yeah.
We've been given a lot of shit about the Bend. We hung a bit on it. We haven't been there. What's it like as a track? Tell us a bit about it because, you know, we're, again, armchair experts, so we copped it hard.
The Bend is awesome. Like we're so lucky to have that venue now available to us across all motorsport platforms. Incredible facility. The circuit's awesome. Yeah. The circuit is awesome. It's kind of got a bit of everything out there. It's got high-speed turns, low-speed turns. There's elevation. So yeah, look, I'm a really big fan. It's convenient now that the surface has calmed down a bit and we can all go there and do some laps without chewing tires, like was a big problem initially. So now it's like a proper real motorsport venue that's real motorsport racing, and I mean, really, we could probably be racing there a couple of times a year like we do at Phillip Island.
Yeah, definitely.
That should be what we're doing.
Yeah. Proper facilities there, I guess, as well, you know, compared to Phillip Island. It's
a bit barbaric.
Old school, like, you know.
Yeah.
That's like, we always laugh you in the back of the pits in MotoGP and you could be taking a piss next to Marc Marquez. And, you know, legit like
poor
that.
bastard can't get away, can he?
Well, apologies to our South Australian viewers for shit canning the Bend. So there you go, you've heard it here first.
Yeah, that's all right. Everyone's allowed to have an opinion when you're on a potty.
That's
That's how it is. But anyway, good. At least the listeners are passionate.
Yeah, that's what we want.
And you just poked them. You just got them right. You needed to.
Right, right there.
Just drawing them in. That's what we do best. That's what we do best. So
it's good. I was just gonna say, how far in your career, has safety come? I've always liked to ask these questions. You've been riding for so long. Is it a real noticeable difference even with helmet design, leathers, and even track layouts? Like,
yeah, yes. So like definitely from a apparel perspective, even across the 20 years that I've been racing, like it's definitely a lot better.
Yeah.
We're still using the same materials. It's still leather, and it's still carbon composite helmets. That hasn't changed so much. But I mean, now obviously there's airbags in our race suits. I'm one of few riders that are very fortunate in this country to have an airbag suit with Dane Easy suit. Little plug.
Yeah.
But then say helmets, like what's changed there? I guess we've seen the introduction of I don't know what you call it, but the tabs.
Safety release. Yeah.
The safety release tabs there. I'd be incredibly surprised if the education on that has actually filtered down to the people that are working with us on the track. But
I'm not surprised on that. Yeah.
But that product is there and available and really good. So for anyone that doesn't know that's listening, and basically you can pull the cheek pads out of the helmet really quickly and really accessibly, which means that the helmet will slide straight off your head in the event of an accident. So instead of having to lift someone up off the ground or change or adjust their position where they may be laying, you can just support their head and get their helmet off. So that's a good invention. Then, like, I guess to digress on that, like visors, if you're having a shit mixer and cartwheeling through the gravel trap, nowadays, the chance that your visor will still be on your helmet at the end of that crash is significantly higher. The helmets aren't foolproof. Sometimes the visor might still come off, but certainly nowhere near as easily. So that's good. Circuits, far out. They've gone to using these rocks at the tracks, which actually pisses me right off. The rocks destroy everything.
Yeah.
They're pretty effective, I guess, at slowing you down, but it's like going through sandpaper at
right.
I don't know, literally hundreds of miles an hour.
Yeah.
Not only do they absolutely destroy the bike, but the rocks are so sharp and fierce, they bloody tear the suit open in a second.
Right.
The stitching mostly on the suit. So again, that's why like the quality of your suit is so important.
Yeah.
And the lightweight suits aren't always necessarily better.
Yeah.
But venues, they're like internationally they're making venues safer.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, nice.
In this country, they're on the right path.
Okay.
Yeah, good.
They're on the right path. It's not easy to implement, and I have actually written emails before or drafted emails that I've never sent because I'm worried about what the outcome's going to be.
Yeah.
And to give a little insight on that, like, I'm from Perth, and Wanneroo Racetrack is the local one at home, and we've just come out of a period, we're probably about 4 years out of it, where the circuit was closed for 2 years, and in the end they fixed nothing on the track. They deviated the circuit away from a place where there's never been any accidents and managed to get it reapproved, and we're back racing there. But like, that is not the outcome that I want for writing a letter, being concerned about riders' safety. Like, there's a fine line between having something taken off the list, like, oh, Bryan, but you said this was this. Well, yeah, I don't want to not race there as of tomorrow. I just want it to be steadily improved over the next 10 years.
Yeah, that's right.
So there's stuff that I've drafted in the past that I've not persisted with or pursued, worried about what the outcome would be based on what I've seen at home. But at least I'm going to say, maybe controversially, but like, we're not racing at winter anymore, and that's great.
Yeah.
We shouldn't be.
Yep.
Until they move wall at turn 2, turn 3, turn 4, coming onto the front straight. Like, until they move all those walls, we should not be racing there.
Yep.
Not at the level, like, should they ban all motorcycling from there? Definitely not. But ASBK racing at the absolute highest level.
Yep.
Or even kids, I know the last time that we were there, one of the kids from, I think it was OJC, slides into the barrier, turn 2, broken leg.
Yeah, wow.
Like a young kid.
Yeah.
A young kid.
Still developing.
Yeah. I mean, the broken leg's the same for everyone, but like it's so. I think the worst thing about that is the kids. It's harder for them to read when you're inexperienced.
Yeah.
It's harder for them to read the limit or the line there in the sand about where the danger point is. So anyway, like great that we're not racing at Winton, and I know that was Motorcycling Australia stand on that. So I congratulate the people that sort of put their foot down there and made that decision. The next one is Wakefield Park. Like the only reason we're not racing there right now is because of the noise, but it really needs to be because of the safety. And I know that they're pushing to get that back on the calendar, and I hope that they do, but I hope they do it in the right way.
Yeah.
So essentially, like in answering your question, like the progression from the safety aspect of all the apparel, it's continually evolving.
Yeah.
But the safety standard in this country for the circuits, there's not really much evolution.
Yeah.
Nothing really is happening.
Yeah.
And I'm going to say majority of our small circuits are dangerous, or they could be improved. I understand the difficulties of it, but like I say, I think there just needs to be some plans in place over a longer term period to steadily make progress on it. If you want the ASBK to come here to this venue, then put a 5-year action plan in place.
Yeah, it's not going to happen overnight.
Yeah.
Just have something there.
We don't need it to happen overnight, but we need some gradual change.
Yeah.
Looking after the riders needs to be the priority.
Of course.
Needs to be the priority. Yeah. Internationally, I guess I can't say anymore, but I think Dorna are pretty proactive with making the standard. Yeah. The standard's pretty high. I mean, in saying that, like looking at what they've done at Phillip Island now between turn 1 and 2, I can't see how that's safer. There's now a wall that goes across a barrier that goes all the way across the circuit there.
Yeah.
I sort of see what they wanted to achieve, but overall, I don't think that's necessarily safer. Anyway, someone far more intelligent than me would have signed off on that.
Yeah,
surely.
That's all right. That's
surely.
all right. That's the way it works.
That's it.
Now to speaking of safety, to wrap this potty up, we've got a surprise for you, Brian.
Yes.
Break it out.
I don't want to drop it. That's the last thing we need.
Shout out to HJC Australia as well for hooking us up. Super cool of them. But we've got a one-of-one limited edition Motorsport Republica helmet for you.
There you go.
With a bit of a message just to say thank you for coming on. You're our first guest. We greatly appreciate it.
Yep.
Super, super cool.
We've even signed it.
We've even signed it. So when we're super rich and famous, we'll
might be worth something.
Yeah, it might be worth something.
Yeah, good. I love this. How unreal. No worries. Well, I can only strive to live by the standards that you've set here because, I didn't bring you guys any gifts.
No, that's okay.
We didn't expect
We're gift givers. We've got you a couple of Motorsport Republica t-shirts. We've got a cool Rossi one here as well for you.
Oh, yeah.
We've
sick.
done. So, yeah, just wanted to say thanks so much for coming on. And
really appreciate it.
Really appreciate it.
Boys,
It's been fun.
Thanks so much for having me. I'm sure that the stars that you're going to have on your show here be much bigger celebrities than me, but I'm more than happy to kick it off.
Yeah.
And I don't know. I hope the listeners have enjoyed the show.
Yeah, definitely hope to do it again sometime as well.
They did.
Good one.
Awesome.
Thank
you. Cheers, man.
Cheers.